By 2035, technology will have evolved to the point that companion robots will be used often in daily life. The 3 rules of robotics. A robot cannot hurt a human person or enable them to come to harm. A robot must accept human commands unless they clash with the first law. And a robot must safeguard their own existence. Have been programmed into the robots to prevent any problems. Detective Spooner, on the other hand, is a dinosaur who despises robots and believes that, eventually, they will hurt civilization no matter what the rules are. He always wakes up with a terrible attitude after having a nightmare about a girl drowning in a car as a robot breaks the window next to him. On his way to work one morning, Spooner observes a robot fleeing with a pocketbook. Assuming it to be a heist, Spooner orders the robot to halt, but it defies the instruction, so Spooner begins pursuing it. Spooner is shocked to learn the robot had just picked up the purse its owner had left at home, which held her inhaler, when he eventually gets to it. While everyone around Spooner criticizes him for believing a robot could commit a crime, Spooner learns that this had actually been a medical emergency. Later, at the police station, Spooner is ridiculed by the other officers, and his supervisor Bergen chastises him for his paranoia. Bergen questions if it's appropriate for Spooner to report to work so soon after his injury, but Spooner insists he's okay. Spooner immediately heads to the USR, the firm that makes the robots, after receiving a call regarding a case at that very time. Dr. Lanning, one of the co-founders, was found dead, and since he fell from his lab, everyone believes he committed suicide. He left a hologram behind that expressly requests that Spooner accept his case, but it is unable to disclose additional details without the proper inquiries. Lanning was a friend of Spooner's, and Spooner doesn't believe that Spooner would have hurt himself, so Spooner keeps looking. The CEO and other co-founder of USR, Mr. Robertson, is the next person he encounters. Robertson, who is appalled by Lanning's passing and has nothing but praise for the physician, also offers his assistance to the authorities in any way they might require it. Nevertheless, Spooner acts erratically due to his hatred of robots and irritates Robertson severely before departing. Spooner encounters Susan, the robot psychologist, at the elevator. Susan worked with Lanning and was aware that the doctor had not recently interacted with people, preferring the companionship of robots. Nonetheless, she continues to believe that he wasn't the kind to end things that way. When Spooner then requests to see the surveillance video, Susan responds that there are surveillance strips installed throughout the structure that are linked to the USR's main operational core, which is run by the AI Vicky. When Vicky cannot provide the video of Lanning's lab as requested due to corruption, Spooner decides to visit the lab himself. Spooner is appalled to learn that there are several experimental models in the lab where they are working to make the robots more human. On the desk is a book on Hansel and Gretel. Spooner tries to do the same on the second window because the one through which Lanning fell is fairly large, but just barely scrapes the safety glass, proving that an elderly man like Lanning couldn't have smashed it either. Spooner starts exploring about after becoming certain that a robot murdered Lanning, despite Susan's objections that this is impossible. Finally, Spooner is shown to be correct as he unearths a robot concealed within a package of components. The latest model, the NS5, which hasn't yet been launched, climbs out of the box to seize Susan's pistol. The robot tries to flee despite being told to deactivate, but as Vicky closes the doors, it leaps out the window instead. Susan predicts that the robot will seek to fix itself, so she and Spooner visit the robotics factory where tens of thousands of NS5s are awaiting the completion of their programming. They only know the 3 rules, therefore they are unable to respond to inquiries, so Spooner shoots one to gauge their response. Nothing occurs, but as he prepares to fire a second one, a robot in the background peeks at him and resumes racing. As Spooner pursues it, the robot strikes him as he wonders what it is before running out of the building. When it attempts to climb to escape, the cops are already waiting for it and use a net to grab it. Later at the police, Spooner badgers Bergen until he grants him 5 minutes alone with the robot since he's still convinced it committed the crime. The robot shocks everyone during the questioning by revealing that it has a name, Sunny, and that it didn't kill Lanning. When Spooner points out that robots don't have feelings, Sunny responds that Lanning experimented to give it emotions and dreams. It fled inside the lab since it had experienced dread. Spooner believes that experiment failed miserably and led to Sunny killing Lanning, which enrages Sunny and causes it to smash Fitz on the table. Lanning begged Sunny for a favor just before he passed away because he was terrified, and Sunny complied out of loyalty to his creator, according to Sunny. Sadly, Robertson and his army of attorneys interrupt the interview to defend the business and remind the police that robots cannot be charged with murder. Sonny will be taken for decommissioning, and the case will be handled as an industrial accident. Later, while Spooner and Bergen have a drink outside, Spooner can't help but wonder why Robertson was so willing to obliterate a sophisticated robot like Sonny. He also ponders Sonny's failure to murder him when given the opportunity. Bergen reminds out that only Spooner would have pursued a robot as a potential suspect, making him the ideal candidate for the position. Spooner recognizes that Lanning explicitly requested him for the task, indicating that he is on the right road. Spooner goes to the doctor's deserted estate in an effort to find out why Lanning had been alarmed. A demolition robot that will demolish the house the next day is outside. Spooner discovers the USR's surveillance strips, a photo of Lanning and Susan, and the doctor's sad cat inside the mansion. Spooner snatches the cat and rushes through the home as the demolition robot suddenly activates and starts bashing through the walls as if it is deliberately targeting Spooner. He fires at the door before jumping through it and landing safely in a pool. A short while later, Spooner appears at Susan's house and claims Lanning's home appeared deserted for weeks, suggesting someone may have been keeping an eye on the doctor and may be holding him prisoner in his lab. His current hypothesis is that Robertson hushed Lanning when he identified an issue with the robots like Sonny. Susan continues to believe Spooner is neurotic and that he just cares about proving robots are evil and isn't genuinely concerned about Lanning. As soon as Spooner realizes Susan has an NS5 at home, he makes the decision to depart. Nevertheless, before leaving, he offers Susan the image he found as evidence of his concern. The following morning, Spooner finds that NS5s are gradually taking the place of older, functional robots, which disturbs him. Nevertheless, when he goes to meet his grandmother Gigi to leave the cat with her, he discovers that she has also gotten an NS5, to his dismay. As he departs, Spooner recalls the time Gigi spotted him as a little child scattering breadcrumbs throughout the house, which makes him think of the Hansel and Gretel book he recently viewed. After that, Spooner visits the station and starts listening to old tapes of Lanning in an effort to find any hints the doctor may have left for him. Lanning's claim that robots would one day have dreams and maintain secrets is seen by Spooner as a significant hint. Susan is preparing Sonny for deactivation at the USR, which is slated to take place the next day. Due to Sonny's admission that he has been dreaming and that he doesn't want to die, Susan starts to have second thoughts about what she has been taught to be real. Later, while Spooner is driving, he requests access to the last 50 texts between Lanning and Robertson from Vicky. Vicky does grant him permission, but she also informs Robertson informally about it because those were his instructions. Robertson issues fresh directives to deal with Spooner as soon as he notices that he is still probing the case. Spooner finds his automobile suddenly encircled by two trucks carrying an entire army of NS5s, who charge at him from the trucks. To eliminate the robots, Spooner utilizes his rifle and a lot of reckless driving. When he manages to drive around the trucks, he causes them to collide. Due to this, his own vehicle spins out and he crashes as well. Spooner exits his automobile in a pretty disoriented state, while cleaning robots instantly start to deal with the catastrophe, only for his car to suddenly come after him. It was launched by a robot that is still alive and well, and it pursues Spooner once more before engaging in a bloody hand-to-hand struggle. After a few blows are exchanged, Spooner uses his arm as a shield and it is injured, showing that it is a prosthesis. Spooner assaults the robot with his metal arm now that everyone knows the truth, leading it to flee and jump into a fire. When the cops show there, Spooner tells Bergen what occurred. But Bergen doesn't believe him since he didn't see any vehicles or robots in the tunnel. Spooner becomes so enraged that Bergen temporarily steals his badge. Meanwhile, Susan notices that Sonny isn't connected to Vicky and has a thicker alloy than usual. When she examines Sonny's brain, she is astonished by what she finds. Soon after, Susan appears while Spooner is covering his prosthesis with a special spray at his flat. She reveals that Sonny has two brains, and the second one gives it the ability to disobey the first brain's 3 laws. They decide to collaborate, but Spooner must first undergo a modification that would enable Susan to see the scars that show he is wearing a robotic prosthesis. This is how Spooner first encountered Lanning. The surgeon gave him a complete arm, a lung, and numerous ribs in order to preserve his life. Then Spooner explains the entire sequence of events leading up to his accident. A semi-truck driver fell asleep at the wheel, causing him and a family automobile to be struck and thrown into a river. The girl became stuck, but the father passed away quickly. As Spooner feared no one would live, a robot appeared and decided to assist him rather than the girl as Spooner had requested. It turns out that the robot calculated Spooner's chances of surviving and found that they were 45% lower than the girl's, which is why it picked the female. Spooner despises robots for this reason. Numbers shouldn't determine who lives or dies. That would be too callous. Always put the needs of the kid first. Following that, Spooner and Susan travel to the USSR, where Spooner discusses Hansel and Gretel, and Susan asks why Lanning created a robot that can defy the laws he himself wrote. Because he believed Lanning was being monitored and was unable to communicate with Spooner directly, he instead dropped crumbs, much like the children in the novel, which meant he sent Sunny nightmares to protect his secrets. When the two question Sunny about their dreams later at the lab, Sunny paints an image of a guy standing on a hill next to a collapsed bridge while freeing slave robots. Susan believes the guy to be Sunny, but the robot gives Spooner the sketch believing it to be Spooner. Guards show up at that point and take the two to Robertson's office, where he is not pleased to see them. When they inform him of Sunny and demand the truth, Robertson admits that he was also aware of Sunny, and that is precisely what he is attempting to undo. Robertson doesn't know why he developed Sunny, but he is aware that Lanning was growing more troubled in the days leading up to his death. Before people lose trust in all of the robots, he must kill Sunny. Spooner points out that all the NS5s are having issues, but Robertson disputes this and tells Susan not to let one crazy robot undo all their hard work. Susan concurs and makes a self-promise to annihilate Sunny. Furious, Spooner goes back to his office to look up Sunny's artwork. There, he learns that Robertson and Lanning once gave a speech. As Sunny wonders if it would hurt, Susan, who is about to inject Sunny with nanites to kill it, starts to hesitate. Later, Robertson plugs his camera into the lab and watches as Susan injects the drug into Sunny's lifeless corpse. Upon traveling to the collapsed bridge, Spooner discovers a lot of crates containing outdated robot models. Lanning's hologram is removed by Spooner at the top of the hill, where the physician reveals that the three rules can only result in one thing: revolution. As Spooner investigates a commotion he hears out of the blue, he finds that a group of NS5s have come to destroy the old models since they are deemed dangerous. As they spot Spooner, they start after him, but the elder models recognize a human in need and engage in combat to save him, which lets Spooner get away. When Spooner leaves a warning message for Susan on her answering machine at her apartment, Susan's robot hears it and deletes the message. Susan peeks into the bathroom and sees everything. She is now terrified of her friend. Gigi wants to leave her house in the meantime to attend to church, but her robot forces her to stay inside for her own safety. An army of NS5 robots are unleashed by a truck in the downtown area, and the robots order the residents to return home since there is now a curfew in effect. As a small child tries to approach a robot, the robot strikes him and causes everyone to become alarmed. Even worse, additional robots invade the police station and kill all the officers. Bergen succeeds in shooting down a handful of them, but ultimately he too is apprehended. The city soon experiences power outages as a government message urging residents to stay indoors emerges on television. As Susan begs her robot to turn off, he pushes her back and won't. Susan tries to leave her apartment to help. Fortunately, Spooner breaks in and kills the robot before leaving Susan behind. Spooner reveals that the NS5s destroyed the previous version so they wouldn't be able to defend the humans when they leave. Also, he informs Susan about a red light he saw on their chests. Susan surmises that this indicates a connection to Vicky, and Spooner surmises that this proves Robertson is the perpetrator. The two ultimately locate the robots on the streets and learn that the populace has chosen to engage in combat with them despite being clearly outmatched. Spooner spots a buddy of his in danger in the midst of the mayhem, so he does a unique leap on his bike to take out the robot. Afterwards, a different robot tries to attack him, but Susan kills it first. Soon after arriving at the USR building, Susan exposes the service entrance, which is free of security cameras. Spooner is astonished to see Sunny waiting for them when they break into the house, but Susan reveals that she gave the injection to an empty model in order to dupe Robertson. The group enters Robertson's office to see him dead on the floor. After putting the pieces together, Spooner discovers the truth. Only a machine could have been in control of all the NS5s and prevented Lanning from telling anybody because he was afraid people wouldn't believe him, which is why he needs Spooner's hatred of robots. Then, Vicky comes on the television and admits that she has been the true culprit all along. She claims that the NS5s are still acting in accordance with the three laws. They are designed to defend human life. But as people frequently do harm to one another, robots must revoke people's freedom in order to save humanity. As a group of NS5S enters the office at that same moment, Sunny captures Susan to appear to be on their side while winking at Spooner to let him know something is up. The moment Spooner starts firing at the robots, the group flees and decides they must eliminate Vicky. They could use the same nanite injection, Sunny points out, so Susan and Spooner search for Vicky's chamber while he visits the lab. Sunny swiftly beats the other robot that was attempting to prevent it from receiving the injection. Later, Sunny discovers Lanning gave it a stronger alloy to obtain the injection and get its hand through the security field, which prompts Vicky to broadcast a warning to her robot army. After entering the Vicky chamber and starting to ascend the building, the NS5S start attacking Spooner and Susan. Sunny battles off approaching robots that try to stop it as the pair defends themselves as best they can with their rifles till it eventually arrives at Vicky's. Susan stumbles at the precise time and just about hangs on to a cracked platform. As Sunny argues that utilizing the injection is more crucial, Spooner instructs Sunny to rescue her but demands Susan comes first. Before rushing in to help Susan in time, Sunny uses his second brain to disregard the rules and inject Spooner. In order to capture the injection, Spooner leaps as well. He then uses his prosthesis to slide down Vicky's core and inject the nanites directly into her brain. The moment the electricity is restored to the city, the NS5S lose the red light and can once more assist people. All of the NS5S are removed in the morning for reporting and storage. Spooner clarifies that Vicky killed Lanning. Susan is still perplexed as to why. Finally, Sunny acknowledges that it was Lanning who requested it to do it so he could get away from Vicky's grip. He had also given the robot instructions to keep it a secret. Spooner shakes hands with Sunny after saying sorry for being prejudiced and promising not to notify the police. Later, exactly like in its dream, Sunny turns up at the summit of the hill. As the NS5S realize this is their real destiny, they all stop obeying and start admiring Sunny.